Now, while this video isn't anything major, I feel like I've been keeping you guys up to date with everything that's been surrounding the KOTOR remake, and you guys seem to be responding positively to that, at least most of you. And this morning we had not an update, which is what I think we're all craving for, but a sort of, I don't know, like acknowledgement from Disney, an actual comment on how they view Knights of the Old Republic and how they view this franchise. And to be honest, it's a little bit difficult to really make out what they were trying to say, but here we are. And I say that because there are many ways you could view this comment from Disney. It really depends on your perspective of the situation and the events, whether it's a hopeful perspective or a negative one, blah blah blah, however you choose to view things, you know? But this comment came from somebody very high up within Disney and somebody who I think should really know what's going on, and that was Sean Shoptor, who is the Senior Vice President of Gaming at Disney. Now, in this interview, Sean was discussing a variety of things regarding Disney and their view of the gaming market in general, and they touched on many things like their licensing deals like Indiana Jones, some of the games that went wrong for them like Marvel's Avengers, and other things like Kingdom Hearts and whatnot. And then, of course, for us, they got to the big question, and that was in regard to the KOTOR remake. And the question was simply this: will the KOTOR remake ever happen? And the Senior Vice President of Gaming at Disney had this to say. There's not a lot I can say on that one for some hopefully obvious reasons, but Knights of the Old Republic is obviously an incredibly popular game, one that we are incredibly proud of, and I think there's still a lot of demand for it. I'll leave it there. And like I said, you can view this answer from any perspective, really. So I'm not going to say here that any perspective is wrong, because the truth is, they are so vague in regard to anything surrounding this game publicly. But I find it really odd for the Senior Vice President of Disney's gaming division to say that he can't say anything for hopefully obvious reasons. There has been quite literally nothing hopefully obvious about this game, despite the fact fans are getting sick and tired of these constant dramas and toxic leaks and whatnot. And so the usage of these two words just seems really kind of, I don't know, out of touch, maybe. And I'll be honest with you guys, the fact that he can't talk about the game is completely understandable. I have spoken about this many times before, but when you have three parties involved in making a game, there is a lot of legality and a lot of legal implications when it comes to speaking about it and making public comments. So, in an offshoot interview about the game, he can't just say anything. Anything public needs to be approved by every party involved. In this case, that means Embracer, Disney, Lucasfilm, maybe Sony, if they're still involved. And so expecting any words or any comments that go beyond what we already know publicly in an interview like this is something that I would never expect. But the reason that I find these two words very strange is to assume that everybody who's going to read this interview and everybody who's going to quote this on social media with really good intentions, as we all know, is going to know that these are the likely reasons they're not talking about the game in public interviews. The reality is most people online are just seeing rhetoric about how the game is cancelled, how the game is done and doomed. There is so much negativity surrounding this game, so much hatred in fact, and that's because the only information we've ever had, despite the announcement, has been rather negative. For example, the whole Aspire downfall was rather public outside of me talking about it. The Sony delisting of trailers and their lack of desire to comment on anything. And that's not including all of these really bad leaks. And so to say that it's hopefully obvious that I can't talk about it makes it less obvious for the general folk who are going to see this headline, who know nothing about this game other than the fact that it keeps going viral on Twitter for being dead every few months. And I personally think that it is just the wrong choice of words. I think it's a choice of words that doesn't necessarily match with the public perception of this game so far and the general feeling surrounding this game, I just think it's a little bit out of touch with the community. Now, aside from that, what I think about the statement in general is actually a relatively positive thing. He speaks highly of Knights of the Old Republic, even stating that there is a lot of demand for it, knowing that there is a lot of demand. I think the Vice President of Gaming knows that this is something that fans really want. Now, does that speak positively for the KOTOR remake? No, not really. For all we know, the remake could have been completely scrapped and redeveloped by Saber Interactive. Maybe they're building it from the ground up and taking out everything the Spire made, I don't know. Maybe they're completely foregoing a remake and they're doing a remaster. Maybe they've scrapped it all and Disney have decided, you know what, we're going to make a KOTOR 3 with Larian Studios. A man can only dream. But there are some positive sentiments in this response, and also the fact that he can't talk about it is evidence of some kind of NDA or legally binding agreement wherein which he can't talk about the remake publicly, which probably suggests to me that things are better than the internet always seems to make out. On the other hand, if he was talking about it openly, that's when I would actually be more concerned, because that would mean that the license has changed hands, Embracer and the other parties wouldn't be involved, and they could talk about it more freely, which means there's no legal implications. And as the old adage goes, if there is no news, then that is good news. Now, I do believe there is some semblance of truth to that adage. The fact is, right now, the only thing that is going around are leaks that are really iffy at best, so things could be going fine, and even if they're not going fine, or figuring out how to move forward with the remake and what they want to do with it, the leaks have no real effect on them, and there's no real reason for them to make any kind of public comment or say anything. But with that said though, I do think if you're trying to build a community and you're trying to rally people into being excited for something, they should make a public statement. And there is a bit of a difference here between me saying that I understand why they would have no reason to do it, but that doesn't change the fact that I do think they should do it. I genuinely believe it wouldn't be hard for all of these parties to come together and agree that they want this game to be a massive success. And within that, they want a community that is thriving, they want its fans foaming at the mouth, wanting this game excited and hopeful. And I know that if I was the community manager or doing public relations here, I would advise that the best way to do that is to get fans back on board, get people interested, get people hoping that this game is coming out, hopeful and excited. And even if that means making a little statement saying, hey, we're working hard, we're trying to figure out how to make this game the best game it can possibly be, to do that we require a little bit of patience and a little bit of faith, and when the time is right we'll show more, and I think that would go a really, really long way into bringing up the excitement levels within the community. It would reinforce a level of positivity and hopefulness in knowing that this game is being worked on, they are trying their best. But, I mean, that is just me. I'm not a PR person, and I've never been hired as one, so maybe that's the reason why. Also, big shout out to Hombre, a member of my Discord server and one of my Discord mods, aka Marcin, for being the inspiration in making today's video. If you know, you know. Anyway, don't forget to hit the like button, and if you haven't, perhaps consider subscribing to keep up to date with everything Knights of the Old Republic, and if you want some more awesome Knights of the Old Republic content, you should check this video out. It goes into detail on how Kreia from KOTOR 2 learned how to kill the Force. I'll see you there.